My dad served on the Community Foundation Board. And so when I was getting into high school, because it was ninth grade for us, he asked if I would consider serving on the YAC so that we could do something together. And I said, absolutely not, no way, and just kept saying that over and over again. He brought this up multiple times. And so finally, after about a month and a half of him pushing, I just said, fine, I will do it just to make you happy. So I applied, got on, and then it just took off from there. I started when I was 13, so freshman in high school, and I stayed on, ours is through senior year of high school, so I was 17, and then got on the McPhip committee when I was 14, and stayed on that till I was about 22, and I started working at CMF. Well, continuing on actually was serving on the McPhip committee. I was still serving, and during that time became the MAWBE intern during college, and so I had the opportunity to put on the conference and plan it. And then during that next summer, I was interning in DC, and Rob and Donnell brought me back to help assist as a staff person. And it was at that time that we went and had, of course, over ice cream, a conversation, and they asked if I would consider coming back to CMF after I graduated, because I was still in college. I still had a semester to go. And so started working part-time during college that last semester, and then started officially then in that January, and worked for CMF there about 2.5 years. And I was a program associate working with the community foundations and the youth advisory councils. So for me, I felt like I had the best of both worlds, because it was clearly working with my passion with young people and doing what I grew up in and what I really knew. But then I had the opportunity to start to really learn the integral pieces of the community foundations and how they work and operated and how it impacted the young people, and really got to have some great opportunities to work on national and international work for community foundations during that whole movement when it was really starting to grow and take off. And so it was just such a neat opportunity and experience that I could never get anywhere else. Well, I had the opportunity to actually intern at the Detroit Pistons in college and with Isaiah Thomas Foundation. So I'd already had some experience with foundations and professional athletes. And so for me, the neat thing is that when you get behind a brand like that or a person, everyone wants to get on board, especially in the good days, which I was there in the good days, thank goodness. But it's an easier way to get other nonprofits and foundations to collaborate with you for the betterment of the community, because people want to be attached to that. So that's a neat piece about it. But it was, unfortunately, for us at that point, the foundation was not something that was at the forefront of the work, and it was more of the community stuff, and it was a one-time hit. And by that meaning, you'd bring in a player, they'd talk for 5 minutes and then leave. And for me, going back to my roots, it felt like I was not having that long-lasting impact, where a grant, you could see the fruits of those labor for a long time. And so I decided that I needed to get back to something where I could help to make change, and systemic change that was going to last for a long time. Yeah, I think it was such a great experience, and I started to write. I graduated, and 3 weeks later started my master's, because I knew for me that I had to keep that momentum going, just because this work can consume you on a day-to-day basis, and so I wanted to just get this out of the way. But I felt it was so important to take my work and my personal life to that next level. And so the great thing about working for CMF is all the connections, but also it was right in downtown Grand Rapids, so I was able to do this and work full-time. But what was neat was really seeing how the nonprofits and philanthropy world was coming together with people from the program, and how could we all work together and talk about it in different ways, instead of it being, here are the foundations and here are the nonprofits, and let's go on a separate track. It was all together, and really looking at those relationships that I still have with a lot of people. So when we're trying to work with schools in Grand Rapids, I can call on my colleagues that I went to school with and say, can you help do this? And I think that's a neat part of that program, that a lot of times people separate out. And so to have that piece was amazing.
And then you went to M&A.
Then I went to M&A, yes.
You are there now, right? Yeah.
I am there. I've been there for over 5 years.
Okay, so tell me about your M&A experience.
Yeah, I am working with, now it's called the League Michigan, which comes from a lot of different things, but really the main thing is from learning to give. And so for us, that is our bread, our meat and potatoes. It's everything is learning to give. And so what we're trying to do right now is to engage K-12 educators and students in integrating service learning, and philanthropy education. And so we have 10 staff across the state that are working with me on a day-to-day basis to be on the ground day-to-day to support the teachers and students integrating this and really helping, just like YAC, how we were able to transform lives. I'm seeing that with this program, is that we're able to take young people who have never had experience to philanthropy and really giving them a taste of it and helping them to see that this can be a part of their entire life. It doesn't just end when they graduate either. So it's now moving into college, and then they're looking at, again, their careers and what they want to do in the future. I was on the commission for 9 years. So I was term limited, but I started when I was a freshman in college.
And tell me about that experience.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It was very similar to the McFIP board when I started, is to sit in a room with all of these people who have been really, the drivers and the visionary for Michigan philanthropy. And I had the opportunity to sit around the table and just listen to them and really, hear where they're hoping we're going, what their recommendations were. It was just an experience that not many people have, and one that I will always truly treasure. But the neat thing really was when I got on the commission, it was right at the start of the time where they were forming a national association. And it had been formed for a little bit, but the piece was, as they were really starting to look at young people and how could young people, youth commissioners as we were called, really be a tool for them and actually utilizing them in the right way so it wasn't tokenism. And so I got to play a major role on the national level in developing a white paper, running trainings for commissioners, so adults, on how to engage young people, and also then for the young people is, what does it mean to be a youth commissioner? What is your role? How do you take this seriously? What are the steps that you need to take? And the big piece that tied in is one of the recommendations were for every commission to have a youth council underneath them. So we modeled it very much after Michigan and what I had been doing. And so that was just neat to help see that grow. When we started, I think there were about 20 youth commissioners. When we were done with this push over a couple years, we were well into the 80s at that point. So it was definitely a huge growth.